Okay, this is my video talking about daily sketches. These are the ones that I recorded as I was doing them. I always wanted to kind of show the process of sketching and stuff, and I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do that digitally. A lot of professional YouTube illustrator types use Camtasia, I think it's called, which is expensive, and I don't really feel like acquiring it legally or otherwise. But it seems that the NVIDIA gaming experience thing that I just happen to have on my PC works quite well. And this little video at the start here is me just testing if it actually records like the desktop and my brush moving in real time and stuff like this. You know, just drawing a little picture of Smiley. What else would I do if I have nothing particular planned? Nothing, of course. And it seems like it works quite well. Yeah, so I decided to record some daily sketches. Uh, yeah, so I'm a big Transformers fan. The 80s stuff, the old stuff. Starscream, or Thundercracker, or Skywolf, of course. A side view, the original art came from some guy on DeviantArt. I really should like credit people, but hey, it's the internet. We don't do that, do we? And I do a little rough layout when I start, and then I just try and draw into it with details. I'm not too worried about the straight lines being perfectly straight. I'm not so good at switching between tools that I'm going to be using, vector lines and stuff like that. This is really more about getting a feel for the shapes and the shading that makes like cool art cool. And the thing with daily sketches, we are sketching more often than not characters we do think are cool. In art styles that we kind of value. So it's a combination of like drawing cool things and just being like at the table doing the work and just building up hand-eye coordination. Not so much a body of work. I mean, they're sketches, right? But it's a pretty intense thing to just kind of sit there and concentrate on trying to get this thing right and think about what it is that the original artist has done, like reflective lighting and the mood they're trying to set. I mean, this is just, like a side view headshot of Starscream. It's not the most complicated thing in the world. But speaking of the most complicated thing in the world, Soundwave. I mean, this is another guy from DeviantArt, and I believe this is one of a series of commissions he did. This kind of top-down perspective thing, especially when you're drawing like characters made of, shapes that are very tied to perspective. It's a lot to take in, especially when you're working freehand. I have a modest grasp of perspective and no fear of the lines being slightly off. So I find it to be a fun challenge. I mean, just getting to the chest area is already more work than I put into most of my illustrations. And yeah, getting a sense for how much line work goes into a good image as well. That's a great thing I take out of this. My approach to most of the sketches is the same. I do a rough layout and then I kind of start at the top and work my way down. I try to keep every part proportionately placed to every other part, so it's like I'm trying to avoid putting things where I think they're supposed to go, but like with Soundwave's right leg there, you can see it should probably be shorter. One of my recurring problems is that I keep things too like logically proportioned, so when there's extreme foreshortening and stuff, which this is a pretty good example of, I do fall short. Which is almost not even a bad thing. My brain keeps wanting to make it look more normal, but style is the absence of normality. So, and if you're trying to accurately replicate something, you should accurately replicate it, right? So this is a dude from oh wow, what's it called? I want to say Samurai Champloo, but that's a completely different anime. Afro Samurai. There you go. And yeah, it's got like kind of epic foreshortening because like you've got the gun in the foreground and his head's all the way in the back, and then like he's got quite stylized limbs with like quite narrow wrists and quite bold. I don't know what you call the muscle group by the elbow. And you know, look at his chin, it goes on forever. You think he's M. Bison or something. And on top of all this kind of stylized anatomy, you've got like the mechanical presence of the gun, which, you know, guns are made of certain straight edge lines that have to be straight, because otherwise, like I've done, the barrel of the gun is wrong and it's clearly a defective gun. Yeah, I'm a big fan of trying to get a kind of a full composition thing going on, so I'm always trying to work the kind of the shading in, but there's too much going on in here. You know, all of these sketches are sort of between 20 and 40 minutes. It's never enough time to finish, but it's enough time to get a feel for what you're doing and to appreciate, you know, the original artwork. You really appreciate it a lot more when you have to try and replicate it, and you see all the small details you wouldn't particularly notice when drawing these things. Yeah, I just use a kind of a default, maybe it's the pencil tool. There's a few pencil tools in Manga Studio. And I just try to create the forms using Linework. You know, this is probably one of the more simple images we've looked at, but it just makes me more inclined to make sure every single line is more accurately placed. I'm a big fan of like using way too many lines to represent anything, and then having to like kind of delete most of them. It's a little bit like sculpture, where, you know, you've got this big mass of whatever you're using, clay or marble, and then you kind of carve away the bits you don't like until you're left with the form that you find most pleasing. It's it's not the most efficient way to work, but it's the way I work, and it'll be the way I work until I change through practice and skill, if I even want to, because I kind of do like creating forms of clothes and like hair and stuff through kind of a lot of thin line work, like I did with the Old Boy thing, which I really should kind of have a video for one day. So normally when I would be working on a face, I would zoom in more than this, but I'm kind of with this one trying to work on my hand-eye coordination as well. I'm still not entirely sure where to put my tablet to ensure I have the best ability to kind of do difficult curves yet not screw up simple cross-hatching. Maybe I need a bigger tablet, maybe I need a Cintiq, we'll see. So Slayer from Guilty Gear here. A very awkward pose in that his spine is quite arched, his hand is massive, his hair is ridiculous. He is the dandiest of them all. He's only wearing one belt. That's very unusual for a Guilty Gear character. I'm surprised he hasn't got belts on his sleeves. Or his belts on his shoes. Yeah, maybe he's not that crazy, but yeah. This is a prime example of me trying to keep things a little bit too proportionate. I haven't arched his spine enough, his head isn't big enough. And a picture like this, the best way to make sure things are where they're supposed to be is to like look at the negative space around the shapes. That is a great way of not being tricked by how you think things should be, and making sure you're actually drawing what's actually there. But, you know, I'm doing everything I can to kind of give the overall impression of everything that's there. And then Potemkin, this one was great, because this one was like 20 minutes and there clearly wasn't enough time to wrap everything up. Potemkin's a very awkwardly shaped character. He's much like the Hulk, extremely top heavy. I barely have time to like do the detail and come back and check it's okay. I kind of have to be one and done, and he's got a lot of like physical metal shapes and stuff, like screws coming out of his whatever that collar is, right? And his massive gauntlets. And look at those boots. You know, I got to learn to draw boots like that, right? And that's kind of the thing with Daily Sketch. You get to look at good stuff, you get to have a go at it, and you can reflect on what you know and what you don't know, and move forward. This one will be the last one, and we'll see if I do another video like this again. I will see you next time.